Thank you very much. Well, I had a question. And maybe I can start with a question to you.
Yeah.
Because
okay.
You described quite a lot of differences, Rex Galiciae and so on, so on. But from my point of view, the biggest differences is Rex Rutenorum,
yeah,
and Rex
Territorium. Oh, of course.
So maybe we can speak later also about it, because that's something what I'm going to say also in my paper, what I want to focus on. So thank you very much for kind invitation. It's my honor to be a member of the project and also the participant of this session. Well, in my paper, I will focus on the process of creating or shaping, let's say, the super or supra-personal or transpersonal idea of medieval statehood. Of course, statehood with these things, as usual. Well, idea existing independently of the monarch, let's say. And I would try to follow also the multi-ethnical path, because in my view, the institutionalization of regnum as such in Central Europe goes somehow together with the process of very deep development, social development in the 13th century. And that was the 13th century when the Central Europe, let's say, multi-ethnicized itself during the process of colonization and so on, so on. I think, and I would like to thank to Nora Beren because she described the situation in Hungary, which is, without Cumans, very, very similar to the Czech situation. Well, I would like to start, maybe not at the end, but I would like to start in the middle. I would like to start at the beginning or in 20s of 15th century, when we can see that in that times we can speak about the personification of crown as a lady, as a wife of kings, as is demonstrated, for example, by this example from the so-called Budishin manuscript. Of course, these were like propagandistic letter against King of Hungary, Sigismund, and we can see that the crown here existed per se. It existed as such. It lives without the king or aside the king. I think that's quite normal situation, not only in Bohemia, also in other countries in Central Europe. So we are in the beginning of the 15th century, and we can also see, because this evidence, this source, had nothing to do with king ideology. Those who was written, these were like burghers, the members of town society. So we can see that the idea of crown spread on let's say, not all, but we are not sure about it, but in broad levels of society. Well, and what I'm going to do in my contribution here is that I will focus on the question of the development of this idea of the superpersonal principle of the crown in medieval Bohemian lands. Of course, we can, and I will go against the time, yeah, from the 15th century to the 13th century. Of course, we can say, and it's well known, that the institutionalization of Corona Regni Bohemiae, this is a thing which is connected with Charles IV. And maybe not only him, he had advisors, he had his courtsmen, and so on and so on. So I'm not going to read this. It's quite a very short characteristic about this concept of transpersonal institution. The crown, as such, existed without the ruling king. And of course, what we saw in the Budishin manuscript, it was rooted in this concept, which was used not only in the ideological way, but it was used also in practical, political way. We have quite a lot of examples, and I'm not going to show all of them, I just took one of them. The relationship between Bishop of Olomouc, Margrave of Moravia, and the Duke of Opava. It wasn't anymore the relation to the king as a person, but it was since 1348. Since 1348, it was the relation. It was established by Charles as a relation to the crown. So they owned the crown. They were like vessels of the crown, not the vessels of the king. So I think that's something which is quite well known, and we can speak also about the Silesian dukes and so on and so on. But speaking about Silesian dukes, that's quite a good example for observing the evolution of this idea and the development of it. Because if we jump before the Charles IV region, and if we jump to the political situation of negotiations between Bohemian kings, Silesian dukes, and so on, we can see that there are we can see some evolution by using terms. These terms could be only terms, but as we can saw then in the second half of 14th century and the 15th century, these weren't only terms, because Charles arranged his realm and his practical policy according to these terms. And we can see that in 30s and 40s, if they wanted somehow to demark the relationships the relationship to the Silesian dukes, I mean the Czech kings, they used even before the institutionalization of a crown, even before they used terms as Regni Bohemiae as another transpersonal ascension or transpersonal how to say it, existence, and we can see that there were times when, and it was, I think, influenced by Charles, that the Regni Bohemiae was changed into korona, and it was made systematically in the charters, which were issued not during the reign of Charles, but I think with his knowledge, or the knowledge of the people surrounding or him, or being at the court. What I want to say is that John of Luxembourg used there when Charles used the term corona. John of Luxembourg, for him, the corona was regnum Bohemia. It was on the same level of transpersonality, let's say, for John. We can see it from the so-called feudal charters of Silesian dukes, and also here we can see quite interesting development, because, for example, in 1329, and we know that there is quite a member of these charters. In this case, Henry the Faithful, but there are some also others. I think you are better in this stuff than me. So, and they paid homage. They did homage to not only to John and his successors, but also to Regnum Bohemiae. So they were vessels not only of king, but they were vessels of Regnum. Yeah. So if we went deeper 2 years ago, so we can see there is another wave, or was another wave of these homages, yeah? And there, we can see there a very nice shift, because we have the charters issued by Silesian dukes, and then we have the charters issued by John on the same thing, as in this case, Duke Vladislav of Bytom, Duke of Kozla. So, in the Vladislav charter, Vladislav said, I would paraphrase, that he is going to be vessel of John, Rex Bohemiae, and his successors. But from the side of John, Vladislav is not only the vessel of him, but he is also vessel of Regni Nostri Bohemiae. So he became a vessel of regnum, of kingdom, as a transpersonal institution. So I think at the beginning, not the beginning, but in the times in the first quarter of 14th century, we can see the roots of this idea of crown. Instead of crown, they used the term regnum. It's also quite common also in other countries, but from this we can see how it, the way of thinking from the Luxembourg court about this thing, how they use it as a political tool, let's say. Of course, John, he built it, or the people surrounding John, they built it on something, and that something brought to this the last Premyslids. And especially what I would like to say is that we can see in the 13th century, and I will go to it a little bit later, we can see that the institutionalization of Regni Bohemiae, that was process which went through the 13th century of medieval Bohemia. And it was ended by not only Bohemian but also Polish King Wenceslaw II. If we are observing, if we are focusing on his titles, he never used title Rex Bohemorum. He felt himself like Rex Regni Bohemiae, like a not only territory but like a transpersonal, existing thing. When he wasn't crowned before his coronation, he used the title Dominus et Heres Regni Bohemiae and then Rex Bohemia. So we can see that this kind of ideological thinking, of the idea of the kingdom as such, which was then used by Charles IV, it has its roots in the time of last Premyslids, and especially in the Wenzel's times, because we can see also in the process of his region, there was the process leading to centralization of power, which is or was also depicted, and it was also, we can see it also from the changes of his title, because if we went through his titles, he ended with a simple title, Rex Bohemia and Polonia. There was, in these, all was included. I mean, like Eger, Cracovia, Sandomeria, Moravia, all was included. There was no need to express it like before. So we can see again the shift. Maybe one of the first steps leading to crown as such. And this is also connected with his monetary reform. And you can see that maybe even Wenceslav, maybe not him, but his advisors and his, let's say, specialists from Italy, brought here, I mean in the Central European terrain, the idea of crown as a symbol. Because if we look at the minted Prager grosz, we can see the symbols by which Wenzel presented his power as such, as at the seal. So, and the symbol was the crown, not sitting king or something like that, not Saint Wenceslas. It was the crown. Of course, we can speak. I know, and I will go to the end. We can move much deeper to the region of his father, Przemysl Ottokar II, and that's quite interesting. That's very, very interesting thing from my point of view, and maybe some of you. That at the beginning of his rule, Przemysl used, like in the title, he used the title De Gratia Dominus Regni. Dominus Regni. That's the first use of this. But then, in whole time of his region, at the seal, he used at the beginning the title Premysl de Gratia Juvenis Rex Bohemorum. And well, this was the first type, and he used this until his coronation. And you would say after coronation it changed. No, it wasn't. He was titled in his charters as Rex Bohemiae, but at seals he still used Rex Bohemorum. I know it sounds like a small thing, but it was quite, it shows something. Because Přemysl, on his seals, or the guys who arranged it for him, he just went back to the strategy or ideology of his father and grandfather, which was connected with another eternal term, and that was family of Santus, Venceslas. What I want to say, and then I leave back to Ostrava and then in Brno, is that what we see here is quite interesting development to the crown, from being a king of Bohemians to existence of crown as such. And when the change started, when it happened, was in this period, especially in 13th century, when Bohemian kingdom was changed, speaking from the multi-ethnical point of view, in the same situation as Hungary, as Nora Berendt described. So I think the institutionalization of regnum was, from the view of ruler, that was the thing how to somehow find a stability, because the collective identity of Bohemians was built on something completely different. So here I have some summary, and if you want, I can send it to all your emails. Thank you for your attention.